So, with the release of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, we now have 5 games in the Batman Arkham universe. Yes, 5, because there is one that a lot of people forget about. But now that we have all these games, I wanted to do a ranking of all 5 of these games, from worst to best, kind of give my opinion on every single one of them, and tell you guys which ones are the stinkiest ones, and which ones are some of the greatest games ever. And I feel like I am actually extremely qualified to make a video like this. Why, you might ask? Well, because I have played every single one of these games, except for Suicide Squad, because it just came out, but I've played every single one of them multiple times. I have probably over 100 hours of game time on every single one of them. I love them to death, and this is arguably my favorite game series ever. It is what contributed to my love of the character of Batman for my entire life, and it is something I am very passionate about. I love these games. I really do. So there might be some controversial takes here. There might be some takes that a lot of people agree with, but let me just say this. It's my opinion. If you're upset about it, that's okay. Let me know down below. What is your opinion? Where do you rank these games? How do you feel about them? Also, before I get started, make sure to subscribe. I upload just about every day here. Shorts, videos. I cover movies, TV, video games, everything you know, everything everybody likes. All the nerd stuff. So make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications to see everything. Let's just jump right into it. So yeah, the brand new game from Rocksteady, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It's easily the worst thing in this universe. It's easily the worst game in the universe, both in gameplay and in story-wise. Now, this game is unlike many of the other Arkham games because it's not a Batman game, and it's also not a game that features hand-to-hand melee combat. It's a game that features this really sort of generic, vertical, third-person shooter action-style gameplay where you play as different members of the Suicide Squad who essentially all play the same exact way, just with different tweaks with their traversal, but at the end of the day, they pretty much play exactly the same. And you go through the story where you're in Metropolis, that Brainiac has taken over, and you have to kill all of these Justice League members, all like 3 of them that have been corrupted by Brainiac. And yeah, I put out a review for this game like last week, and I summed up all of my thoughts for it there, and I went pretty extensively into everything in this game that I don't like, so I'd recommend going to check that video. But to sort of sum it up and bring it to a short explanation, I didn't enjoy the gameplay at all. I thought the story, although was a good idea, this idea of actually having to fight and kill the Justice League is really cool, is done in the most bare-bones way possible. The boss fights with the Justice League really suck. A lot of the cinematic stuff really falls flat once you get deeper and deeper into the game. The game doesn't have an ending because it's a live service thing that's setting up 3 years worth of seasons, so therefore there is no satisfaction to finishing the game because you don't get an ending, and that sucks. A lot of Justice League members are just kind of thrown to the side. Like, Superman is atrocious in this game. I mean, Wonder Woman has like a nice little arc, but they never really give you any reason to really care about her. The Flash and Green Lantern are done okay. Batman, the Arkham Bat that we're obviously going to be talking about a lot in this video, wow, what a shame with what they do to his character. Just nothing good in relation to that character. The world looks nice. That's probably the one positive thing I could say about it. They did a good job building the map until you actually, like, get down on the ground and realize how empty it is, but it looks pretty decent. The game looks, as a whole, pretty good, but it doesn't look anywhere near as good as Arkham Knight, another game we'll be talking about later. That game came out 10 years ago, so yeah. This game's a dumpster fire. I'm heartbroken by its existence, and I just don't want to talk about it anymore, so we're gonna move on. Arkham Origins Blackgate is the forgotten Arkham game. This was a side-scrolling action game that was released alongside Batman Arkham Origins. It was made for like the other consoles, like the Nintendo stuff, and different PC things, like kind of like the handheld consoles. And I've played it only once. This is probably the game I think have even less hours on this than I have on the on Suicide Squad. But this game is just, it's okay. It's a little bit underrated. It's really not the worst thing in the world. It's a story essentially about playing as Batman, and you're in Blackgate, and they kind of set up a Suicide Squad game that's not the Suicide Squad game we got. That would have been a completely different Suicide Squad type experience, but the game is definitely interesting. It's a lot different than any of the other Arkham games. It still kind of has the combat system in like a weird way, but it does introduce some interesting characters. It sort of set up what we would know the Suicide Squad to be, at least with these characters, in future animated movies and future cinematic movies. It kind of became like kind of a cornerstone of that type of storytelling with these characters, and I think it does it in a really interesting way, and it definitely bounces off of the original Arkham Origins game in a way that makes a lot of sense. So this game is definitely fine. It's a good experience, and it's one that goes very underappreciated and honestly underrated by people. And that brings us to number 4, which is Arkham Origins. Now, Arkham Origins is a game that gets hated on a lot, like a fuck ton. And I can understand why for some of it, but let's just start with this. Arkham Origins was developed by WB Montreal. It's the only Arkham game not to be made by Rocksteady, the mainline Arkham games. And it's a game that essentially is an origin story for this character. We go back, and this is a Batman who's only been Batman for a year or two, and we get to see kind of his introduction to a lot of the villains in his rogues gallery. First off, I want to talk about the game's marketing campaign all the way back in 2013, because this game, I was so excited for it. They had this great strategy of really building up the fact that the story would be centered around these 10 assassins that have been hired by Black Mask to track down and hunt down Batman and kill him on Christmas Eve, and kind of revealing slowly throughout the marketing campaign who each and every one of these assassins were. And that was such a cool way to market the game. It was so exciting trying to figure out who each one would be, who the mystery characters would be. They left some as like a surprise for when the game came out. All of that stuff, so awesome, and it made the build up to the game so cool. Now, Black Mask as a villain, obviously there's a twist that I won't spoil just in case anybody's played the game, but what they do with him was not popular for a lot of people. I love it. I think it was great. And where the game goes eventually with a lot of the other characters like the Joker, who's in the game, played by Troy Baker, who, by the way, should do everything with the Joker from now on, now that Mark Hamill's sort of retired from playing the character. He's so good here, and the Joker character is so good in this game. It's probably the best non-Mark Hamill Joker version of Joker we've ever gotten. It's a great origin for the Arkham Joker, a great origin for the Arkham Bat, and this world is really cool. You have a bigger map that is mostly empty, which does kind of suck, but a lot of the story missions here are really cool. You get to go fighting Penguin, like on this abandoned ship that he's kind of manufactured into like his gang hideout. You get to fight through like this big tower that the Joker's held up in. You get to fight in Blackgate prison. There's a lot of really cool set pieces in this game. A lot of great boss fights. The Bane boss fight at the end of the game is one that I particularly remember being absolutely great. This game's side missions are also really fun. This game is really a complete package when it comes to Arkham games. Now, there are some issues. One of the issues is about midway through the game, you get these shock bracelets from the Shocker, or whatever the character's name is, the electric guy. And those shock things, they really make you an overpowered beast. It makes the combat almost unchallenging in every way possible, because you just strap those things on, and you can wipe an entire room of enemies in like 2 seconds. And that's one of the reasons that I know a lot of people hate the game, and it's definitely something that takes away from it, because it makes the game so easy that it feels like you're not even playing it. Also, the twist, I know a lot of people don't like. People don't like how empty the world is. It's definitely the emptiest world of any of the Arkham games, but it's also a very large world that gives you a lot of areas to explore. The Riddler trophies and a lot of the stuff like that was not as satisfying as in the other games in the universe, but overall, this is a game that I love. I go back and I play through it all the time. It's a game that I think should be appreciated more. It should be talked about more in the Arkham saga of video games. It's an awesome game. Next up, the one that started it all, Batman Arkham Asylum. Now, Arkham Asylum is a classic. It is one of, if not my favorite game of all time. Obviously, I'm ranking it 3 here, so you're probably saying it's not my favorite game ever, but it's the game that really got me into gaming. You gotta remember, this game came back like almost 20 years ago at this point. I remember playing it in about 2009 or 2010, and I absolutely loved every second of it. I was terrified by it. This game scared the shit out of me, especially those scarecrow sections, which still to this day I think might be the spookiest and craziest and most mind-bending video game experience I've ever had, playing through those scarecrow sections. A lot of that stuff was terrifying. The Killer Croc boss fight used to scare the living shit out of me. This game is scary. It is a terrifying game that sort of echoes a lot of like the third-person action stuff from games like Dead Space and Resident Evil of the times. Obviously toned down a lot more than those games, but this game was definitely made to be kind of like this isolated, you're in this insane asylum and crazy shit's happening and you're a one-man, fighting machine. So that's a vibe to it that I definitely love, but is kind of surprising, at least compared to the other games in this series. But this game introduced the combat, the free-flowing combat, that's so much fun, it's so addicting, it never gets old, you could do it for hours and hours and hours and just never get bored of it. It introduced the Arkham Joker, played by Mark Hamill, who's great. You get Kevin Conroy's Batman, who is awesome. You get a bunch of other characters like Jim Gordon, you get Oracle, you get a bunch of people in this game that are just so awesome. A lot of people hate the final boss fight. I love it. I love the Poison Ivy fight. I just love the journey you go on in this game. I love the world and how it's built. This game was so ahead of its time. It's amazing. It's perfect. Everybody loves it. The only reason it's below the next 2 games is because the next 2 games took everything that was built in this game and just expanded it, made it bigger and better and just so awesome. So I have to rank them above this, but those games would not exist if Arkham Asylum wasn't as good as it is. Now, this might be the biggest shock and the hottest take of the video, but yeah, Arkham City's number 2. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do you put Arkham City number 2? It's like the greatest video game ever made. Well, it's because personally, I think the game ahead of it is a little bit better. But in saying that, I have probably put over 200 hours of my life into this game. I have played through it multiple times, more times than I can't even count. I have done every mission, every side quest, every little ounce of this game so many times. I know the map like the back of my hand. Arkham City I'm in love with it. I love it. I remember being so excited for this game when it came out. I remember getting it on release date. I was only like 9 years old, coming home, playing the entire game in like one sitting, and then playing it again right after. I loved every second of it, trying to figure out every Easter egg, trying to explore this entire world, this built-up Arkham City, this prison that's built in a city, which is so detailed and so cool. There are literally Easter eggs on every centimeter of the city. It is awesome. You have the Joker's Ace Chemicals area, which is so well built, and the whole mission structure there is so cool. The whole Riddler stuff in this game was so innovative at the time, and so awesome, and so cool to kind of see it satisfyingly come to a close if you do all the Riddler quests. The side missions in this game are great, from the Hush quest line to Deadshot. There were so many cool things in this game when it came to side quests that, to me, as a 9-year-old kid, was mind-blowing. And the story, I mean, it's amazing. It's kind of like this love story between Batman and Joker, where you have Hugo Strange, who's an awesome villain, you know, weaving himself in. The Ra's al Ghul stuff doesn't completely work for me in retrospect, but at the time, I thought was awesome. You get Clayface in here, you get Talia al Ghul, you get so many different awesome stuff within this story that just works so well, and it's such a great adventure where you really feel like it's you up against the entire world, that like if you don't stop what's going on, some really bad shit's gonna happen, and it's just such a great game, and it is just, it's perfect. But there's one game that I prefer to play a little bit more. That's Arkham Knight, and I understand why a lot of people don't love this game as much as the other two in this series. I get it, okay? The Batmobile stuff, it gets old. You know, the millions of tank battles in this game, they get really old. But if you are looking for the complete package of Batman gameplay, a complete package of an open world Gotham, and just a Batman experience, this is the game. Let's just start with the way it looks. It's the best looking game of the series. It's still, to this day, one of the best looking games ever. The game is so ahead of its times in its graphics and its visuals. It came out in 2015. You could fool me if you told me this came out today. Combat, the free flow combat is the best it's ever been. You have so many more options when it comes to the stealth. You have so many different options when it comes to the actual free flow combat. You can pick up weapons in this game. There's so many other things you could do that you couldn't do in the first two, and it is as fun as it has ever been. Gliding is so much better. It's faster. It's crazier. You have so many other options with that. And then the Batmobile. Now, yes, the tech missions do get repetitive, and it is kind of generic and boring, but driving the fucking Batmobile is still the greatest experience in video games, in my opinion, when it comes to driving a vehicle. It is the best controlled vehicle in video game. It is just so much fun to drive around. It never gets old. You know, come on. You could fly around Gotham. You're gliding around, grappling, hooking on shit, diving, flying, and then get in the Batmobile, drive around Gotham, fly out of the Batmobile. Like, it's so awesome. It never gets old, which is why I've put probably 300 hours into this game. It's just so fun. It never, ever stops being fun. And then I get to the story of this game, and a lot of the complaints about it is that it's a little predictable. I don't think so. I mean, yes, the Arkham Knight thing was a little predictable at some point, but everything else that happens in this game, this is probably the most well-written video game, comic book hero story ever. This is such a good story. You have a villain in Scarecrow who's legitimately terrifying and awesome and voiced perfectly. You have Kevin Conroy give, in my opinion, the best performance as the Bat. The Arkham Knight character, although the twist was, you know, very predictable, I thought was a cool twist and a great character. I think the way they weaved Joker into this story was so smart and so intelligent and made it such a psychologically different game, which really kind of connects to Scarecrow as a character and how he's really a psychological character who gets you to be afraid of stuff. Like, that's his whole thing. So, like, it makes a lot of sense how they did the Joker. There are endless amounts of side quests in this game. There are literally, like, 15 cinematic side missions. Now, imagine, like, the newest Spider-Man game, that weird Carnage side mission in that game. There's, like, 15 of those in Arkham Knight. Like, that's fucking mind-blowing, but the side missions are so crazy. The whole prison system where you gotta bring the guys back, you can see all the villains you captured, that was so cool. This has by far the best Riddler quest out of any of the games. The ending is satisfying, and then the end game, the stuff you do after the credits have rolled to get to, like, the real ending was really great and really satisfying. The new game plus was really fun. There's a lot of surprising stuff here. The world is really thought out. There's Easter eggs yet again at every corner of this city, which is just epic. It's emotional, it's fun, it's dark, and it's just the most Batman thing ever. Arkham Knight, in my opinion, is like the greatest game ever. I absolutely love it. I even love the tank battles. I said it. I love them. they're fun for me, I guess. I don't know. I understand why people don't like them, but I enjoy them. But yeah, I'm sure people are going to disagree with me on some of this. I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me, but I think there's one thing we can all agree on. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a piece of shit. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Just make sure to like and subscribe, please. Click the video on your screen right now, and I will see you guys in the next one.